Good morning and welcome to Backyard and Beyond. And good morning and welcome to you, Deputy Corey Larson.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Well, Corey, we want to talk about you and your partner. Your partner's name is Melo.
Yes.
And he is one of those working canines. And I'm just fascinated with how dogs can do what they do. They're really very special animals, and they they just do so much work. And we sort of, I don't know, unless we hear it on the news, I think we sort of forget about it. But Melo is a day-to-day, 24/7 project for you.
Yep, 24 hours a day. He's still with me and my family, even when we're not working. And definitely man's best friend. We use them for a working tool. They're not a pet that you would normally see in the yard. They definitely are helpful to us in our day-to-day activities for work.
What kinds of things can the dogs be trained to do for you?
Most of the dogs are dual-purpose dogs. My dog is a single-purpose. He's a drug detection dog. The other canine we have is Canine Kane, and that is with Deputy Kyle Quist. And Kane is a dual-purpose dog.
So when you talk about dual-purpose, what kinds of areas does that cover?
He's a officer protection dog, or suspect apprehension, sometimes what we call it, and tracking, and also narcotics.
Okay. So if a person is lost, and there was one just recently you said where that dog, not your dog, would be put into work.
Yes, recently Shelby County had an individual that ran from them, and Deputy Quist and Kane were used to find that suspect in a field, and were able to locate him and get him medical attention before he was arrested due to hypothermia from the cold conditions.
And of course, when we were talking about this was somebody who ran away from the law, but there might be a lost child or a lost adult, and the same dog would be able to help find that person.
Sure, if we have an individual from one of the nursing homes or a child that runs away from home or gets lost, you can use the dogs for tracking as long as we have good conditions and the conditions are safe enough to use the dog, then we can use them to find that individual.
And what do you mean by safe, if the conditions are safe enough?
A lot of times, say a suspect is armed or that person has a weapon. A lot of times we don't like to use the dog for that fact, but it just depends on the circumstances.
Sure. Let's talk a little bit about training, because again, they start out with these great abilities. Every dog has great abilities in terms of smells and hearing and so on. But how do you get a dog to do what they do?
We purchase the dogs from a trainer. Just depends on where we go to find the certain dog that we're looking for. That trainer will take the dog at a young age and develop the skills needed, and then we take over when the dog is ready to go on the streets.
And what kind of training do you need?
We do, like my dog is purposely for narcotics, so we do a lot of drug odor work. And there's other things involved with Canine Kane. He would be, we do bite suit work, do tracking, and also the narcotics work. So it depends on the skills that you need the dog to do.
Okay. So the dog comes to you with some training, and then, do you on a weekly basis do training with you and your dog, or, what kind of training schedule is there after that?
We do a minimum of 2 days a month, so we do 16 hours, and then once a year we're trained for certification, and that certification is run through HAPTA, and that's the organization we belong to. This fall we'll be in Urbandale for a week. We get our certification, and you have to do that yearly.
And wasn't one of those held near Atlantic a year or so ago?
Yes, 2 years ago we had it in Atlantic. There's approximately 30 dog teams in our organization now, so it's grown from when I started to now. It's been a pretty good organization.
Yeah.
So.
When you started, how long ago did you start working with the dog?
2003 is when I got my first dog.
So I think that, Corey, I think it just has to take some special skills and some special patience and somebody who can work with an animal to do the job you do.
Right. Not everybody likes to have a large animal that's with them all the time, and it does take patience. It's basically having a small child that's with you. And like I say, even at home, you're still taking care of them, and it even takes patience at home. So
got to feed them and
feed them, bathe them. Bathing's usually a fun time. So
But now at home, does that dog become your pet at home?
He's not a pet at home. My daughter, she knows that, the dog's a big dog, and he's not going to bite her, but you wouldn't want him to scratch her or jump on her, just...
Even if it were just play.
Right.
Yeah.
There is some play that we do, but the play that we do with the dog is still work-based. So if I played at home with Melo, it would be with a drug odor device. Whatever I had at that particular time to be training him with would be, the article would be, it'd have an odor on it.
Mm-hmm. And probably nobody else is going to be around when you're doing that.
Right, yeah. It's not like I would have you, I could have you hide the toy, but I wouldn't have you reward him or be the one that's actually doing the work with the dog.
Okay. And saying that, I have some other questions about that training and so on, but saying about hiding the toy and so on, you do go out and do demonstrations for folks.
Yes. The nursing homes, schools, churches, basically you name it, and I've been there to do a demonstration. People like to see what the dogs do, and it's very interesting just to watch the dog and to understand why they're doing what they're doing, and just to watch them, watch them in progress.
Mm-hmm. Well, and no, this is part of our community that's helping us out, so it's good to know about that. How are the costs paid for?
Mostly through donations, and then also seizures that we have. You hear on the radio that there was a traffic stop on I-80 maybe. A canine was deployed. Found either the contraband, whether it's cash, drugs, or both. Usually that money is kept with us. We get a percentage if we do a courtesy to another agency, or we get the money if it's our own traffic stop, if that dog's used for that purpose.
Okay. So if somebody wants to give a donation and help, you certainly are open to taking that.
Sure, we take donations all the time. People are still... they're very interested in giving us, support to keep the canine program going.
Good.
We're very appreciative of that.
And it's interesting to me that we do have 2 dogs in Cass County.
It's odd for a county our size to have 2 dogs. There is an expense there, so you're probably talking $20,000 in just the 2 dogs. That's not the equipment and the time and effort. So.
And what about special equipment?
The vehicles, you're going to be talking about probably another $10,000 invested in the kennel that's actually in the vehicle, the equipment that we use, just special things that the dog needs that wouldn't be in an ordinary vehicle.
Mm-hmm. Okay, got to protect the dog. And,
yes.
Yeah, and keep them safe as well as in that space. And what about when this dog gets ready to work? You have this dog at home, you have him in the kennel. So how does it know when it's time to go to work?
Usually, if you're in uniform. The dog knows the difference between the day-to-day activities that you're doing and when you come out and you're in uniform. They usually have a heightened sense of awareness when you're in uniform, so they know that it's going to be time to get in the truck, and they're going to be with you for 8 hours, so they're pretty excited.
They do get excited. You can tell
Very
that
excited,
they
yes.
are ready to go to work, too.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's great. How long does a dog usually work?
It just
years?
depends. My first dog that I had in 2003, he's currently in Adams County and still working. Another Belgian Malinois. You figure it just depends on the dog. If the dog's able to work, then we're going to keep him in service. You figure probably 6 to 8 years would be that max timeline. But it just depends on the dog. And if it's just a single-purpose dog, they're going to last longer than the dual-purpose dog.
Okay. And then what happens to them?
When we retire them, we usually do a application process for the community. If somebody is interested in getting the dog, usually for like $1, they can buy the dog from us if we select that family. We make sure that they're going to be able to take the dog and care for the dog, and it's going to be in a good home.
So then, it hasn't been a pet. How do they turn out as being a pet in the family? Because now they're not a working dog anymore.
Most of the dogs that I've seen when they get to that age and they retire, they're in pretty good spirits when that family takes them.
Ready to retire.
They're getting the dog treats, they're getting the different food that we wouldn't give them, and they're in pretty good spirits, so it's not too bad of a transition.
Very good. And being selective with that family, again, I'm sure is a really important kind of thing.
Correct.
Now, you talked about feeding them. Is there a different kind of food? Is there more high-powered food? What about the food that they get?
We use a food from R&B Feeds now it's a high protein food. It's not just one of the foods that you would go to Walmart and buy, a bag of food. We want something that's going to actually sustain the dog and keep them healthy. Like my dog, he gets 5 cups a day, and that's all he gets.
And how much does your dog weigh?
My dog's about 84 pounds right
Yeah,
now.
pretty good sized dog.
Yeah, they're big dogs.
Yeah. What about the breed of dog? Now you said you get one from a trainer. What about, are there some breeds that seem to work better than others?
Usually the Malinois and the Shepherds are what you're seeing, but we also have some labs that are in our organization. Labs are very good for narcotics detection. But as long as the dog's willing to do the things you're training them for, you can use about any type of dog you want. So
Kind of like people, some are smarter than others, right?
Yes.
So you be trained
Very
better
true.
than others. And anything else you want to add about how you feel about working with a dog and what they do for our community?
It's nice that the community is wanting to have the dogs available and that they want to see them all the time, and it's fun for us because we get to actually see what the dogs do, and we bond with them. It's just like having another working partner. I always say when I go down the road, at least I have somebody to talk to. We don't have another officer in the truck, but we do have a dog, and he listens. So.
Yeah, you listen, so you can say whatever you want.
Right.
Okay. Well, we want to thank you very much, Corey Larson, Deputy Corey Larson, for coming out and visiting with us about the canine program here in Cass County and around, I guess, the world.
Thank you.
Till next time, here's a thought. Every day is my best day. This is my life. I'm not going to have this moment again.